going on, dude? Welcome to the Airbnb.
Sir, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, can I just start? Can I just go
You're
into it?
going on it. You're on a roll.
Let's go on to it.
Yeah.
You know, let's go into it. Like, I want to go right into it. Like, what was your experience like the last 2 days coming off of the season you had and now stepping into, like, the biggest stage in the U.S. even more?
Yeah, it was, I made the decision not to do a U20s and to get in this, like, the senior worlds. I wanted to compete with the best. And then, after the prelim and everything, I ran how I did, and it's, I made the right decision, and, it's kind of where I belong, so I think, so happy with it.
Like, mid-season, I started seeing, like, things start happening, and I'm like, hey, this kid's got it. Like, he consistently just kind of, like, chipped away at it, and then it's like, he's right there. And I was like, that's when Alex was like, he's like, I'm doing this on Cade, and I was like, that's when I started really, like, locking. I'm like, okay, like, this is, like, got me hooked. Like, the chase, the, like, you as, like, a person, and, like, the drive that you were showing is like that. And, like, you pretty much, like, in my eyes, like what you just said, like, you gave up on a pretty good opportunity to represent U20s to, like, hang with the big boys.
Right.
And then you said, like, I realized after the last 2 days, like, I belong, even though, like, you fell short of what I'm sure your goal was.
Right.
Like, I'm sure you had the goal of obviously breaking the record as well as, making the team, making the final, making the team, giving yourself a shot. Like, that's what I'm curious about, like, you as a person, you as an athlete, like, I feel like me as a high schooler or me as a young athlete, somebody who I would have been much more, like, I don't know if I still belong. Like, I didn't achieve, like, I didn't get as close as I, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't make the final, or I didn't, like, achieve, like, what makes you say that, like, you belong, Where does that come from?
It's all year long. It's like, seeing things before it happens or seeing things before I do it. Like back in November, I ran like 150 last year, 152.5, and gave every ounce of me to run that. And that's nothing. That's a fast time as a junior, but that's nothing just insane. And then this year during preseason, like it was like best ever this year, best ever reps or workouts, and having just these ginormous goals and national record above my ceiling before I was even close to getting it, and then it's seeing it there and before it even happened, and then have this whole season chasing it. I almost got there, but getting ninth, I was the first man out of the final, and it's the same thing. It's the same mentality that never changes. So
you're done now in a high school jersey. You get home later in a couple of days. What goes on the ceiling?
I don't know. I don't know yet. Exactly. I got a couple of things to think about it, and that's what a lot of people ask, like, what's the next goal? What's next for you? And it's it's the same thing. It's just keep chasing greatness. Now there's no high school record to chase, but there's other records and there's other accolades and medals, and now I'm not one of the big guys. Whereas in high school, I'm a big dog up in the high school level. But now I'm the young guy coming into this next level. So just underdog mentality, I guess.
Have you always been, like, did you play other sports other than track?
Yeah.
Like,
so
were you always super competitive?
Yes. So I was a basketball kid for the longest time, and I ran track for basketball to begin with. But yeah, I've been competitive, playing cornhole with my family, or running track or doing everything.
I remember, like, crying when I lost in, like, soccer games as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, or, like, blaming, like, why did you not pass me the ball more?
Yeah,
like, I was always like that. Like,
yeah,
that's probably a bad team sport player growing up, to be honest.
Yeah, elementary school, I had a few meltdowns on the court where I would just get a little too upset. But
that's probably why track is best for us, because if we mess up or if we lose, it's on us.
It's
we can't
on us,
blame
right?
anybody.
Exactly. Can't blame anybody else. That's right.
It's kind of like why I feel like when you, even though, like, in your high school you kind of have, like, the team sport aspect, or even in college you have the team sport aspect of, like, national championships and college or conference stuff. But at the same time, it's like, if you screw up in, like, your event, it's not like, I didn't get the ball enough to like make enough points. It's like, I just didn't run fast enough.
And that's like with the semi yesterday. Like, I was I found myself more towards the back, and with 400 to go, and I just surged up to the front because I was in the back, and I was just like, I'm not leaving this up to tactics or being closed off or having to swing out in the lane 5 to get around these guys later on. I just die on my own sword, or live by the sword, die by the sword. So it's the same mentality. Yeah, it's on me, and I'd rather it fall on me than on someone else. So.
How much race tactics did you have going into it, as far as like based on like who was in the race? Did you kind of expect it like a certain way? Did it happen the way you expected? Like obviously you haven't raced any of us except for the day before. You raced maybe one or two of them if you did it at all. Like, did you expect it to go the way it did? Did you know Isaiah was like a front runner? Or like what kind of expectations do you have going into it?
I knew Jewett was a front runner going into the weekend. That's pretty much the only guy that I really knew how they raced. I've watched Harris race, I've watched you race, I've watched Hobble race, like, dozens and dozens of times, but I knew Jewett is like, okay, he's gonna go to the front every time. He does all the time. But yesterday in the semi, it didn't go how I wanted it to. I was in lane 2, and I should have got out a little harder, but for the most part, it played out how I thought it would. But so it was interesting. I think day before prelim maybe took some out of me, but it was pretty much how I thought it'd go. But kind of my own fault.
Been there.
Yeah.
Been there plenty of times.
Yep.
It happens. I think like taking those when you said that, like it was my own fault, and like taking that and running with it and like depositing that learning experience to like draw on, because now you're gonna be like, okay, I'm in the prelims semifinals of the 2023 trials or the 2023 NCAA championships. Like this doesn't happen again.
Right.
I feel like whether it's like oh, I don't have to make as big a move, or like I just need to be towards the front at the beginning, or like you said, just need to get harder. Like those little things, you like, hey, they happened before, like just don't let it happen again. And
that's like another reason why I chose to do Senior Worlds, is just like the next time I get on a stage like this, like I'm gonna be ready. I'm gonna have I'd never raced 2 back-to-back days in my life. Like getting that routine in was was kind of stressful. Just like, okay, what do I do right after this race to get myself ready for tomorrow? And things like that, and just getting through rounds, and it's just those little things, and then being on the the biggest stage, getting that out of the way as a young guy when you got kind of nothing to lose, just kind of soaking it all in. So,
you can learn a lot when you're just soaking it all in.
For sure. Because
I feel like my progression was like from high school to the 3 years I was in college to like 2016 was like slightly different. Like I rarely have ever had a target on my back. Like you coming into it, even though like you said, you're going to become another small fish in a big pond necessarily, but at the same time, like you are a 146 high schooler, you are going, you are stepping onto the stage in the limelight, but you've dealt well with having that target on your back. I mean, you've been racing high schoolers versus college, but it's still the fact that you have to line up, with that X on your back, and the fact that you've handled it so well already, I think just exactly what you just said, like learning from what happened this weekend and taking it and running with it, writing that new goal on your head, on your ceiling, and like keeping it in your head throughout the season, and sticking to what's worked for you. Like college is gonna like be tough. Like you have like a lot more on your plate with like you don't have them grilling out late at night. You got homework to deal with. It's a little bit harder than what you're doing in high school. Like there's a lot more on your plate, but at the same time, if you stay laser focused on the track and what you're doing and what worked for you, like you've already handled the hardest part, which I think is when you become the target of a race. Like that to me was one of the hardest things that I had to handle, is like when I race races and I became the target in them. Because there were still races after 2016 where like when I had to go straight to the international scene, like a lot of those races I still wasn't like the favorite. And very rarely still in my career, I still look at myself as a favorite in a lot of races. So when I am the favorite, it's like a mentality that I'm still even to this day like learning, and you've now like mastered it at one level and learned a lot from it to take to this next level to get yourself to be the collegiate favorite in every race you step on, and handle it the same way you did it, the same at the lower level.
Gotcha.
Cade, what kind of questions do you have about Clayton's career?
Ooh. Very interesting.
You didn't prep him at all, did you? No,
I told him to have some questions ready.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some questions. Career.
He's an open book.
Yeah. I guess I'd say getting through these rounds, like, say, like with prelims, with semifinals, like how do you just conserve, like how do you get through those rounds and prep and knowing that like that final is like what's important, and like that final is going to be like the fast time most likely and everything, but you got to get through these two first, or is everything looking at that final, or is everything just one round at a time, or how do you deal with that?
I'd say that 363 days out of the year, the focus is the final. And now that means that I'm training for the finals. That means that I'm training multiple workouts in a row. But the day of the prelim and the day of the semifinal, the final doesn't matter. That is the final. If that is a way to if that kind of makes sense. Like the whole entire year, I'm focused on how good can I be in the final, which means I have to be ready to run rounds. Which means I have to work on running workouts where I'll work out on Tuesday, I'll work out on Thursday to work on that turnaround of a day off, or I'll even work out back-to-back days to an extent just to kind of get my body used to that. Yeah. But when I wake up on Thursday morning in Eugene, like the focus is the preliminary round. And yeah, if I can conserve energy the way I've been able to the last 2 days, like that's great. But I was prepared yesterday to, like, I left the house saying I'm going to win the semifinal. Yeah. Like, if I can do it within reason, like, I'm going to win the semifinal. Yeah. I think that, to me, is, like, you go into it winning it, knowing you can be top 3. And I always say, whatever the qualifying window is, I always say one better than that. That's, like, one little tidbit I'll tell you is because, like, I always say I had to be top 2 in every single race this weekend. I had to be top 2. Because if somehow you get nipped at the line, you're still 3rd. Right. Because you never know, like, when somebody's going to outlean you. Or, like, you're feeling really good and all of a sudden, you know, you make a misstep. Like, to me, it's like, so this whole weekend's been, like, top 2. And, yeah, I've been 3rd, but it's like, I felt comfortable in 3rd and there's not been a force to it. So I'd say, like, the whole year round is focused on the final and winning the final. But the day of the prelim and the day of the semifinal is focused on those 2 races only. Because then the final doesn't matter if you don't. Right. Yeah. But it's even, too, like, even bigger picture for me, like at this level, like I told Alex on the way up here, like really to me, Worlds is just 6 rounds. Like these are just the first 3 rounds of Worlds. Yeah. And so at the same time, like you got to be top 3 in every race, pretty much here on out to the end of the season. Right. And I said that before I left home. I told that to my sister, I should run jogging with him, and I said, hey, just top 3, 6 times, and I'm a world medalist. Right. And so if you kind of look at it that, and you look at the big picture, and then you wake up on the day of, and you're like, take care of business and move on to the next one. It makes that like. It allows you to run the day, you know, and focus on the race you're in, focus on the 2 minutes you got to run, without worrying about the other races. But at the same time, you've prepared yourself that as soon as that race is over, you're on to the next one immediately. Right. And there's no like, oh, did I do enough to get ready for the next round? It's like, no, took care of business I needed to take care of. I'm ready to go.
Gotcha. And like a day like today, like when you're off and you got the final tomorrow, which had 2, you know, back-to-back days, like. Is it just a mental thing from here, just getting focused in, or you know, like what do you do on a day like today when you know your season rides on tomorrow? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I slept horrible last night. I slept really bad when it's a late night race. Whether it's the caffeine or whether it's just like adrenaline or whatever, I didn't sleep good at all last night, and I was up at like 6. I'm already kind of a morning person, but I was up 6 a.m. this morning, like having coffee. And so we went and jogged this morning with some people, and it was nice. I jogged with like my 2 coaches. He was on the one wheel, and like a girl that went to high school, one of the local high schools around us. So like we were super slow, nice and easy, and it was nice to kind of like check out from training a little bit and do the training without thinking I was doing it, you know, in this situation. And right before you came, I just got out of the hot tub, and like the rest of the day is literally just gonna be chilling on the couch. I've already went through all of my mental process for the race. I just had 10-minute talk with my coaches before you came about like what my thought process is for the day and like how the final might go and my preparation and everything that I want to set out and try to do within the race. And so now it's just about like that kind of marinating in my mind and simplifying it. Because I'm very like analytical and like all over the place when it comes to it. And so I try to, by like the time I go to bed, have it really narrowed down to like 3 or 4 keys. Yeah. And that way on the day of the race, it's like, those are my keys. But I'm prepared that if exactly what in your case happened, like if I get shuffled to the back or if I get shuffled to the front or the pace is 54, the pace is 49, like I'm prepared. But I have kind of these 3 keys that kind of can allow me to run well, and that's what the day is built on. It's also, I mean, I'll probably chill on the couch with wife, we'll watch the rest of the meet, and then probably just turn on Netflix the rest of the day and watch movies tonight, ordering food, and like be as like non-track related as possible, as much as possible as we can. I'd say it's somewhat similar to college in the sense of like you're still getting ready for your conference championship and national championship, like that's your end goal. But I think like, I don't know, it's like you're training so much for really 2 races out of the year, the US final and the world final in a sense, that like everything else has to fit in a line to like get you ready for that. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because like that's what the sport's built around. And I wish it was built more around like a regular circuit where like
you know, there was a lot more pressure for us to run stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Because it's fun. Like, I love competing, and like I'm sure you do. Like, I love racing. Like, that's why I do it. Like, I don't want to train. Like, I want to race. And so for me, like, how my coach and I look at it is like, here's our end goal of like World Championships in Eugene. Like, does this Diamond League get us there?
Yeah.
If it does, then we run it. If it doesn't, then it's like, hey, unfortunately, we probably gotta like figure out a different way. But we try to make as many things fit into that because I love racing and that's what gets me like going. And so I think being able to take bits and pieces of training and racing to get you ready for those as much as possible, even if they don't go perfect.
Yeah.
Understanding that, like, I mean, I ran 147 in my 800 prior to USA's last year. Like, I could have easily just been like, man, I don't think I'm ready for trials. But to me, it was like, I just wasn't perfect on the day.
Yeah.
Like, I was off. I was training.
Right.
Like, I was just off. And I ran 143 like 3 weeks later.
Yeah, we I noticed that.
So it's just like I think to me, like, early in my career, I would have like almost packed it in on myself after 147. Been like, damn, like, I don't got time to get ready to go. If I can't run 146 prior to trials, how in the world am I gonna make an Olympic team?
Yeah.
But I had faith in like what coach was doing. I learned from how I ran 147, what happened. And they would be like, now I know what I got to do right at trials.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that you can take very easily to college, because that's one thing that we really, like, coach is really good about in college, was like your conference championships and your national championships and your races along the way all prepare you. And sometimes he was like, hey, you need to run like 2 races the same day. He's like, you need to get some training and you need to run with tired legs. Like, you might not be running against, like, there was a lot of meets my sophomore and junior year where I was kind of how you potentially might end up being, like, by far and away the best dude in the race. But if you're running, you know, if you're going to a relay race and you're running, you know, a DMR the night before and you're coming back the next day and you're running the 8, you're running the 8 on a little bit tired legs. Yeah. You know, you still you can't really necessarily cakewalk through it. Yeah. It gets you ready for the 2 rounds, and it gets you ready to potentially show up to a race, let's say a US prelim next year, and you don't feel great in it. Yeah. You know, there's been many prelims where I felt like terrible in prelims, but I had enough races in my career where I felt terrible, and then I'm like, hey, it doesn't matter how I feel, like, put myself in contention and get ready for the next day. Yeah. And so I think, like, just learning from those experiences, learning to run when you're tired, you know, chipping away at the season, staying focused on the end goal no matter what happens along the way, can go a long way. Gotcha. So what's the deal? Like, talking about college, what's the deal? Because there's some changes. Yeah, there's some changes for sure. At the moment, you know, I haven't really done anything different. Just been, like, when people ask me, like, I've just been focused on U.S. trials and things like that, because, you know, that's what's important right now. Nothing I can do this week, or, you know, whatever's going to change what's going on over there behind the scenes. But yeah, so I haven't, you know, really had time to think anything of it. So yeah, just kind of hanging back, and I guess I got to start thinking about it now, right? So, like, obviously take out, and you can leave the coach in the equation of why you, but, like, what went into your recruiting process? My recruiting process, I'm sure, was completely different than yours. Like, I was kind of this, like, mid-level, below tier 1 Ohio guy. I mean, I was recruited on 416 and 156. So, I mean, I wasn't recruited on anything crazy. And I was super small school Ohio, so it wasn't like my name was, you know, all or mouth split and stuff like that. And so I had to do a lot of work to get schools to even kind of, you know, throw me books in a bone type deal. What went into your recruiting process, and, like, what was life like as Cade Flatt on the recruitment tour? It was like really exciting. It was you know, I felt like really blessed every time I got, like, another call. You know, really, like, I have a map in my room, and it's of, like, the United States, and I got, like, a flag and pin for, like, every school that contacted me, like, where it's at, and just, like, filling that map up. So is there any space on the map for any other schools to contact? Not for any of the big ones. Pretty much got all the big ones. But yeah, it was exciting, and, you know, really just what came down to it was, like, where am I going to be most successful at in this, you know, whole running thing, and because that was most important to me. Just how's this going to get me to the next level, and things like that. But yeah, it was you know, something else. It was busy. It was stressful, because, you know, it's like, am I going to be across the country from my family, or am I going to be right down the road, or, you know, it's just not knowing. But yeah, just having to relay all the options, and,
sometimes you'd be out, hanging out with your friends, and you'd have just, all these coaches calling you, and it gets busy, but it was exciting. It was a good problem to have, so.
My mom had to start taking the phone away at like 8:39. She was like, "All right, you're done. Like, you talked enough. Like, time to like focus on school." And I'm like, "Come on, like, this is fun." Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Like, this is fun.
And those like first couple calls, like I'm sure, asked way too many questions to these coaches because they were reaching out early, but I was just, excited to talk to them. Just trying to ask all these questions right away. Probably.
And unfortunately, there's schools that never end up on the end radar at all. But you're like, these are the ones I took the most advantage of. Where like the first couple schools, the first couple schools that contacted me, I like used and abused, and then I'm like, I don't really want to go there because I got much better schools. But thanks for all the information.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But it was nice, kind of, picking some of the coaches' brains and just what, I don't know. I guess some of it was like, confident boost. They talk you up, and I'm sure it's part of the recruiting process. But it was just good hearing from guys like at that level, and like they're seeking me out.
Yeah.
So.
What was the short list?
My top 5 was Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Iowa State, UK, and North Carolina. So that was my final 5.
Was it like coaches? Was it facilities? Was it like environment, location, guys in the team? Like what kind of were like? Because to me, like I wasn't looking at it. Like I want to be successful in running, but like unfortunately, like my level, like I said, like I was looking at the pro level, like you are.
Yeah.
Like to me, it was like I was going to school to run fast, but also I needed degrees. Like I was looking at engineering and like those different things. So it's kind of like I had to kind of sacrifice a lot of schools I wanted to potentially go to because I wanted, like I didn't have, like my focus was like 50-50, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of it was like that. But I'm curious, like what's life like on a recruiting tour in 2020 or 2022 when you're like the dude, you're going to like run track there, like.
Yeah. So my main thing for me was like being around success, like for successful people. So, facilities and, jerseys and all that stuff can kind of be on the back burner. But it was like successful coach who's going to, get me to where I want to be, and then successful teammates to kind of be around and stay around, train with, be around every day. Just, being with winners, being with successful people is what I wanted. Because, so at certain level you kind of are who you're around. And so I wanted good people around me and to bring me up. So those are the 2 main things, and everything else could have came second. So
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about training. Cade, can you explain like your past few months of training to Clayton and what that looks like on a regular basis for you?
Yeah. So my training is I went back and looked. I'm like around like 4 or 5, 6 miles a week, and it's pretty much all like more on the speed side. I watched your Beer Mile podcast. I was just hanging out in the living room. I put that on, and I saw you. I guess you're more on the strength side, right? Yeah. So it's just like there's testament to 2 different ways to run the 800. But my training is I don't do recovery runs or long runs or anything like that. It's all kind of just like I don't do long runs, so I'll just do something like at like 5K pace or whatever, like a little 5K workout or something like that. But all my stuff is kind of speed side, and yours is strength, right? So
So like how often are you on the track then? Like during the week?
Every day.
Are you really?
I'm on the track every day. Yeah.
Right.
So and like some of those things I can do it off the track, but it's like I guess those would be my speed days that I'm going to be on the track for. So I could do those on the street in front of my house, but I had to go to the track. So I'm on the track like 5 days a week. So that's
I'm literally on the track like 2 days.
Yeah.
Like everything else is off track.
Yeah. So I'm in like I'll run 5 days a week, maybe 4 days a week, but like some days I won't even run. It'll be like a medicine ball or like body weight circuit or something like that. So super light. But that's you're only on the track 2 days a week. That's weird.
Like so like my like Sunday is like a long run for me. Like
how long is your like long run?
10 to 12. So and then Monday is usually like 6 to 8. Sometimes I'll split it into like 4 and 4, but 6 to 8 miles. And then Tuesday is like a workout. Wednesday, Thursday recovery runs. Friday workout. Saturday recovery run. Sometimes in there like that's a little bit of like I said, like a Tuesday, Thursday session with like then a Saturday kind of like tempo or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'd say on average during main parts of the season, it's like 2 days a week on the track, maybe a third day if it's like I'll replace a long run with like some 200 or something like that.
Yeah, but, and I know you said you like to race often and a lot. Like, during the season, like when you have a race coming up, I don't know, like how often do you race, and what does that switch the schedule around, or is it just depending on the day, or? Like,
yeah, so like month of May, I went 3 weeks in a row, like 3 weekends in a row racing.
Yeah.
But every race I come back and I pretty much work out on Tuesday again.
Okay.
So pretty much it'd be like workout Tuesday, and instead of that Friday workout, it'd be the Saturday race.
Okay.
Would be the workout. Colton, I did some stuff after the race. Because again, the eyes are on June and July.
Right.
So yeah, you're really tired for the race. We got to still get that second workout in somehow.
Yeah.
Sometimes a race isn't necessarily a full
Right.
workout. But kind of, you know what your racing schedule is, and you kind of build your workouts around that, knowing like, hey, I'm going to have an 800 race / workout.
Yeah.
Like the other workouts probably more of like on the strength side, or like the other end of speed side. It's not necessarily an 800 base workout.
Right.
So yeah, so we had that mile at Prefontaines. Like that was like a really good mile workout for me. But I worked out. I came home from that. I flew home on a red eye after the race on Sunday night, and I was on the track Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday that week doing all 800 base stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So I worked out on Sunday at a mile workout, and then I worked out Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday with all 800 base stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So like that week I was on the track 4 times.
Yeah.
Like,
So like, like when you hit like these 800 pace, like how often do you do things at 800 pace? Like you're an 800 guy, but you say you're a strength guy. Like how often? Because I know I drilled like a lot this year. I was just just a pure 800 guy, and that was pretty much my work. Touched on some other things, going higher, going lower.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was just sticking to that 800. Are you the same way, or is it more you do more 15, more 4, and then race the 8?
I would say up until pre. So pre was like a month ago-ish, 5 weeks ago. I hadn't done anything really much 800 pace. I would do some 150s and 200s that were like slightly faster.
Yeah.
Like not even much faster, 26, 20, 25 pace at max. But then post pre, I started kind of introduce 800 pace stuff. But I do a lot of training that's like just over it, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, but what I'll make up for it is just with short rest.
Yeah.
Like shorter rest. And so when I get down to the 800 pace, like done some stuff with like 50 point stuff, some 52 pace stuff over the last couple weeks. But like, I mean, I was hurt January, February, March, and April, May for me was just a lot of like 57 pace stuff, 56 pace stuff, like just kind of working on that like turnover. So yeah, not a lot of my training is done at 800 pace, I'd say.
Yeah. And I guess while you brought it up and stuff, like I've been like really blessed throughout my career, never had any injuries, never had any hiccups or anything like that. Like what do you do in a season when it's a world championship year and you get hurt in January or whenever you do, like bounce back, like mental aspect of that? How do you like what goes through your mind? What happens there?
It's tough.
Yeah.
There's like
and I know it was the same last year during trials. You were hurt as well,
tough. Because I was in a very similar boat to you, post college even. I had almost 0 injuries in college.
Yeah.
I think I missed 1 race in college, maybe.
Yeah.
In high school, I missed none. And then the pro scene, summer of 2017 through now, it's always been a battle.
Yeah.
I think there is a difference as a pro. We talked about earlier. Like, as a pro, you really have to train on that line.
Yeah.
You have to train I call it a cliff. And if you aren't training on the edge of the cliff, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. And if you train too hard, you fall off the cliff. And you're trying to climb yourself back up to the edge of the cliff to train at. Yeah. And so I've lived on the edge of that cliff, and I've lived a lot of times like hanging on for dear life on the cliff. Yeah. But I think for me, like the key that I would say kind of what you're saying, like your back's against the wall, you're hurt, you know what the summer looks like, what's ahead of you. Like keeping your head down and putting the same effort into the way you train, into rehab and what you're doing. I mean, I spent, I don't know how many doctors and appointments and different treatment options and things to explore, and I was like, well, this isn't working, let's do this. And like not letting my doctors be like, hey, let's give it a couple of days. It's like, hey, it's like, let's do this now, let's have a backup plan. If it worked, great. If it takes driving across to Columbus to get this done, or like I flew back to Portland here, like I flew to Portland like twice to see a doctor, like when I was trying to put all this work in the same way that I would put the work in the training and recovering when I was healthy. to knowing that like all it took is like, you know, it could be next week and I'm ready to train.
Yeah.
And so putting that same dedication and effort in and realizing like there's no way if I'm giving up until the last possible minute.
Yeah.
Until I literally possibly can't tow it at the USA's.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not going to give in an ounce to like what's going on, and I'm going to fight every ounce to like get back to training. Yeah. And if you dedicate that, it's not easy. Like I'll tell you that it's really hard because there's a like, I told Alex like a couple weeks ago, I was like, this is kind of the healthiest I've been, but it's almost like scary because it's like when's the next, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like when's the next thing, like, but I can't live like that. I can't train like that. So we've been able and been lucky the last couple weeks and months to really get after it, and it's been nice. But dedicate yourself to the entire craft, and that includes like the little things that come up along the way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big thing too. I think that's part of the reason why my system was a little bit different when I moved away from my college coach and then moved back to him. Like my college coach was very much like, I want to know exactly what's going on with you. Like if you had a bad night of sleep, if you had a bad exam, like if you have an exam, he did make the joke that like if you have a hangnail, like I want to know.
Right.
He's like, I don't care if you have a hangnail, but I want to know you have a hangnail.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so like to me, it's like we've had that relationship now where it's like, hey, like my arch is a little tight today. He's like, that doesn't really affect you. I'm like, well, you want to know.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, if like my arch is tight for like 3 days in a row and I'm telling him, he's like, okay, something's going on. Like your foot's a little tight. Like you get this figured out. Like so having that communication and trust with your coach so you can be like, hey, my hamstring's a little tight. And he's like, well, how tight is it? And you're like, it's not bad. Like you can work out. And he starts to push through it and he's like, hey, like look a little off today. Let's pull the workout back. Versus you not saying anything. Right. He trains you to the full extent. Then the next day you're like, coach, like my hamstring's really tight. I ran really hard yesterday. It's like, why didn't you tell me? Then that becomes like, you know, and then you're like, well, now I got to take off the next workout because my hamstring's tight. Versus being like, hey, I can still work out all week. I pull back a little bit, train all week, get the weekend, get the hamstring going. So I think that having that conversation with your coach as well as you with your body can go a long way.
Gotcha. I had another question, but I forgot. Can't think about it. Went down a rabbit hole.
Where do you get the like? We talked a little bit about like the competitiveness. Yeah. Like where does the confidence in yourself come from? Does it come from like training or does it like?
Yeah. It definitely comes from training. You know, like all my like doubt is when you step on the line and you're doubtful of yourself, then you're probably thinking like, you know, you're going back. Oh, I should have been going to bed earlier. I should have been eating right. I should have been drinking a lot of water. I should have been, you know, I should have pushed a little extra bit in that workout. And when I get on the line, I know that I've done all those things right. There's no regrets when I get on that line. I just go do the job, see what happens. And then another part of it is like, you know, right before New Balance Nationals indoor, before this whole kind of thing like took off or whatever, my preacher was this sermon. It was like just perfect written up, and it was he was preaching about fear is the opposite of faith. So like, you know, whether you go out there and break a national record or get on a world team or you know, win a gold medal or finish dead last or don't finish the race, you know, it's all part of God's perfect plan, and it's all planned out for you, written up that way. You know, so what are you to be afraid of? At the end of the day, it's going to work out perfect. You know, destiny doesn't make mistakes. So I get on fearless every time because I know I'm going to go out there and give it my all. And if my all isn't good enough on today, then you know, there's a reason for that. You know, there's a reason for me not making the final. There's a reason for me not being on Team USA. You know, there's reasons for everything. So and that's how it's been all year. You know, I think if I would have gone out and broke the national record first attempt way back in April, I probably would have just, you know, I might have cooled off for the year and or taken some time off and not been as hungry all year long. So, you know, being that close and all year long pushing me has just pushed me way past beyond anywhere I thought I could be this year. So, you know, everything happens for a reason. God's perfect plan. Fear is the opposite of faith.
So you're standing on the start line and they haven't set on your marks yet, but you got that like, there's like that 30 seconds. Like what's in your head at that moment? Is it blank? Is it just like focus? Or are you telling yourself like, are you going through like scripture in your head? Are you going through like trust yourself? Or are you just like?
It's going through, you know, I'll sit there and during warm-ups, during, you know, I don't know, people like see me or people, there's people like videoing me, taking pictures and stuff like that. And I'm mouthing to myself all the time saying best ever. Yeah. You got it. Let's go, boy. Let's get it. Just kind of psyching myself up like you belong. Go show them. You know, you got nothing to lose. So that's pretty much what it was on the line. It wasn't anything you know, I wasn't nervous. Like being on these big stages, like not being nervous is such an advantage, I think, and you know, I'm so grateful for it because I remember, you know, back in, and it hadn't always been like this. I mean, even last year, you know, I'd be on the line, I'd just like tear myself up, like those, when he'd say set, I'd get on the line and the gun would go off, and those like first 4 steps, you can't feel your legs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like that throughout my whole career until this year. And this year, you know, I get on the line every time thinking I'm the baddest. So,
yeah.
you know, no matter who it's against. So that's it. Yeah, it's just hyping myself up.
Pretty similar, like a lot of belief in yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of simplify it. So like I said it in like I say it every time, like 2 minutes.
Right.
Like it's literally just like 2 minutes. That's all it lasts.
Yeah. Right.
Like it is like my always thing is like it doesn't matter how bad it's gonna hurt. Like I've hurt worse in practice.
Yeah.
Like, cause I feel like that's what I always, and it sounds so like dumb to say out loud as like a world class athlete, but like I still deal with like pushing my body like to pass that limit.
Right.
Like I had a coach once that told me, it's like keeping your hand on a hot stove running the 800. It's like how long can you keep your hand on the hot stove?
Yeah.
And like you eventually like the more you do it, your hand will be able to stay on there longer.
Yeah.
But you got to keep keeping your hand on there a second or two
Yeah.
longer every time.
Mm-hmm.
And if in the 800, if you keep pulling your hand off too early, you never fight past that. Like, so for me, it's like, you know, 2 minutes. Like that's it. Like, it's only gonna hurt for 2 minutes. Like, focus on yourself. Focus on like exactly what you're saying. Like focus on what you set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing else matters at this point.
Yeah.
And then once the gun goes off, it's just like
exactly. And like, you know, a guy like you and you know, like me and everybody, like if you're not getting on the line thinking that you belong there and that you have a chance of this or that you're gonna go out there and win the race, then like why are you stepping on the line? You know, there's always a, you know, if you're going out there, then you've already lost. You know, and I can tell like some of these guys this weekend, like or in the high school stage or like the college or like pro, like they walk in a room and I'll look at them and they look at me and you can kind of see like it's like I can see it on their face sometimes, like you don't want to be here. You know, it's like I've already won.
So could you tell? Because you've been in call rooms with high school kids who were, I would say, not on the same level, like nowhere near the same level as you.
Yeah.
Like the majority, like you're blessed. The majority of high school kids are on the same level as you. So you've seen those kids in call rooms, but now you've seen the pro scene where like you've seen the top tier pros, and you've seen the guys who are at USA's that aren't necessarily on the same like top tier.
Yeah.
Can you see a difference in those, like being, because you have an outside fresh perspective. Like me, I'm in the call room with these guys. Week in and week out. Like. I don't have the same perspective, and I'm focused. Like I was kind of like obviously like I don't know, I just focused on myself a lot. But could you see a difference in like people in the call room?
100%. And you know you can, the guys that you would think wouldn't be, like the guys who you know think they belong there, you can tell. Yeah. And the guys who are just out there just to run, see what they can do, you can tell. It's like just the body language, the way they sit in the chair even is, you know, different than these guys. You know, the great ones who run and the top level like yourself. But yeah, I can definitely tell. It's just, you know, different. You can tell who like belongs, who wants to be there, who's ready, who's not, who's just, you know, praying away.
Well, it's even like in the call room last night. Do you remember when like before, because we were in Heat 2, you were in Heat 1, you were kind of already like getting ready to go. Yeah. And someone had ripped a fart in the call room.
That's what that was?
That's what happened. And Eric Sawinski and I are like, dude, like that's really bad. Yeah. Like someone needs to check themselves. Like that's really bad. Yeah. And you were like, oh, do I smell or something like that? And we're like, no, dude, like you weren't even over here.
Yeah, that's what, because Baylor asked or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because we were trying to figure out, but like even that, like I always feel like you can, like you said, you can tell the guys who are able to, because at the same time, like you're focused on ready to go, but like you can kind of still like be a human and be a person and like have a little fun with what you're doing. And there's guys who are unable to really do that in call rooms, and you can tell that from the start.
Yeah, because it was just when I got up and walked around, I thought I had something on the back of my shorts. I was like, oh no, I'm about to be on TV.
Because I said somebody has it running down their leg. That's what I said. So somebody needs to check their leg because it's running down their leg, and you're like, what? I
was like, Baylor, you're embarrassing me in front of the pros. Stop. The first prelim day, like I sat, Donovan came and sat beside me, and it was just like, oh, this is so weird. Like I'm putting my spikes on, and Brazier's like putting his like spikes on, and it's just like it's like a few months ago, like I never would have thought, you know, before all this that I'd be in this room, and then you know I watch this guy all the time, and it's like I'm about to race him in the same race. Like it was just like kind of surreal. It never really, you know, settled in. And Donovan's a great guy. He's great. But yeah, it was just weird. It was odd. The second day I was like, okay, you know, we're here, whatever. But still, like, you know, like I don't know, first up, like seeing you warm up the first time, like seeing all these guys that you watch all the time, just like that, that's them right there, like I'm about to race them or, you know, compete with them, seeing what everybody does, it's just weird.
So did you take any, that was kind of like, oh, you led it to, you watched, everybody warms up together.
Yeah.
Like in the same, and I think a lot of people, I don't know what you thought of like, USA's is maybe, I don't know, a little bit different, but like, a lot of people I think there's a lot more structure as a pro athlete, but like as you saw, like we're all on our own.
Yeah.
Like I brought my own massage therapist this weekend,
Right.
and like paid out of my pocket for him to come, and like you set up your own thing, and you have your own. Everybody's like, there's no like structure to it. It's like you go to the call room at one time, like when everybody goes, and like, but you're all a man on your own. You get to the track on your own.
Right.
You do all this. Like, what did you learn anything warming up in the same time as like me and Eric and Bryce and Donovan? Like, what's something you take away maybe of like what we do that you can maybe now take to as you go to the next level? Did you learn anything outside of like the racing 800 meters?
You know, like there were certain things like,
or even like questions.
There were certain things, just like little I guess like pro tips, like little kind of cheats, getting through stuff. Like the first day I just warmed up in that one big infield and the sun just beating down on me or whatever, and that's the only place I really knew. But then I saw like some other pros, like I guess they weren't even 800 people, but like Sidney McLaughlin and stuff were warming up in this shaded area, right by the athlete tent. So I was like, oh, I'm doing that tomorrow, you know. So just little things like that. But yeah, it is weird being just kind of on your own. Like it's like you're kind of used to it at high school and stuff like that. But yeah, it is weird. You kind of just like you're responsible for it, and it's a little stressful. Like it's nice having my coach there and being like, okay, be here, do this. But yeah, it feels, it's like the same as a high school meet, but it's just like so much bigger. You know, it's like the same kind of, you know, don't be late to check in, you know, things like that. But the officials were nicer though. High school officials are so rude 99% of the time. It's horrible. But USA, the officials this week were great. So.
I'd say Eugene officials are some of the nicest people there.
They want to be there.
You'll have some rude people in the pro scene. I'll just throw that. And in the college scene, you'll have it too. Yeah. But there are some extremely rude officials around the world. I'll say that. You're very lucky that your first professional meet was with Eugene. Because like he said, the nicest facility, the nicest call room. Well, it was weird too because so they're running through. I was actually talking to one of the officials while you guys were racing, like right before you guys raced when you guys out. And I was asking him, I was like, why are you guys doing a World Athletics, like for World Championships call room? And he's like, this is going to be like 1 or 2 more call rooms exactly like this. We just like one set up. Because usually every race I've ran, including Olympic trials, like all of the lanes, because that stretches past that like box we were in. Yeah. Like it goes all the way to the end on a and usually it's like the call rooms are like off to the side and then like the 5 lanes are open all the way. Okay. So like prelim day, like my stomach was really messy because I've been sick. And my stomach was really messy. So I didn't do any strides from like 30 minutes before the race because I was like, I feel like I'm going to like have to go to the toilet. Like I'm going to pretty much stop warming up and just keep myself warm and do all my strides right before the race. So if my stomach's upset, it's like only upset for like 5 minutes. Well, then I get down there and we get put in a box. And I was so caught off guard by that. Because usually it's like all open. I was asking the official, I was like, we're like running our World Athletics like preview. And he's like, I'd rather screw up in front of everybody in the US than everybody in the world. I was like, yes. I was like, that makes sense. But yeah, they are very, very, very nice here.
Yes. But it's it's weird. They seem like they want to be there. So.
They do. They love the sport here. One last thing I got. What is? You just said you do everything right throughout the season. You said you like had your first burger last night. You sleep the exact hours. You drink the right water. You do everything like right. So you have 2 weeks to live the life of Cade Flatt as the high school, graduated senior. Like, what is that life like now? Like, what's your go-to places? What's your food? Like, what's your hobby? Like, what is Cade off the track?
Definitely just gonna be as a normal kid as possible. You know, I keep having to like leave my friends and people back home. You know, it's in the past like 4 weeks, like 3 weeks or whatever. Just been busy. Just from Lexington to Philadelphia to Oregon. So just gonna go home. I have double stuffed Oreos, like my favorite snack, and I don't think I've had those all season long. So I'm gonna go get me a big pack of those. Probably finish it in one sitting. Kentucky, where I live, I'm like 4 hours west of Lexington, right on Kentucky Lake. So I'll probably have a few lake days in there. Just hanging out, being normal, staying grounded, just getting out of this, track world. It's been, it's been really busy. Just being a normal kid for a little bit.
I'll leave you with something, and Alex knows this because Alex has seen a lot of me off the track more than anybody outside of like my wife at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't lose sight of like Cade off the track.
Right.
Like, a lot of people are like, and obviously it's different for everybody, but I would say like I love Oreos too.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not afraid to like have a couple. Like I like got Oreo thins to like get rid of like.
Yeah.
Like that's my thing in the last couple weeks. Because like I am the athlete who's like, if I get too like caught up in it, I burn out.
Okay.
And I'm like, by like you're saying, like you've had this spring,
Mm-hmm.
like you step into like, it's still a little bit in college, but in college you're gonna go potentially a little bit with cross. You know, you're gonna run, at least train in the fall.
Yeah.
You get indoor, outdoor, and you're like go
Right.
at the highest level every week.
Yeah.
And like I'd say like keeping who Cade is off the track as much as possible,
Yeah.
without obviously affecting your on-track performance. Like you're
Right.
saying, go eat a pack of Oreos
Of
after
course,
a race,
yeah.
but like keeping who you are off the track and like keeping the
Mhm.
friends and still being, you know, the 17, 18, 19, 20,
Right.
and still to this day like 27-year-old off the track Clayton.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was saying today is like we're gonna play board games and like
Mm-hmm.
I want to watch TV and watch Netflix and
Yeah.
like if like I have like Starburst in here, like that's my snack for the day.
Yeah.
Like I'm like at the same time I'm like it's like if a couple Starbursts aren't gonna affect my race
Right,
tomorrow.
yeah.
So like keeping who you are off the track is like
Mhm.
something I would say like don't be afraid to do.
Yeah, and I like, and that's like the friends I have, and so like all my closest friends I got like one of my closest friends ran track, but like
Mhm.
the rest of them don't run track, don't
Yeah.
do any sports, like just different people, and like the groups, the people I hang out with back home and stuff, like they always keep like when I'm with them, like I'm never thinking about track and everything,
Yeah.
and that I think that helps me so much,
100%.
just being like normal around normal people, just like people who can look at me like just a normal kid, and just whatever.
It's a grueling sport,
Yes.
mentally and physically, and to have
Right.
be able to have that outlet is huge.
Right, and just getting away from that, but then ready to coming back in just keeps me fresh, and for sure, agreed.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the video. How do we outro this? This is my job. This is your job, Alex. Hope you guys enjoyed this time with Cade.
Also, you're gonna put the pressure on me. No,
You're the talent.
I'm always doing your job here.
All right. Why does Cade do the outro?
What did you say? Well, how'd you start off the first one? How'd you start it off?
All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video with Clayton.
Thanks for
Yeah,
watching the video.
you got it?
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video of me and Clayton. Stay tuned. This guy, I'm gonna go crush it this weekend, and we'll be back soon. Stay tuned.
Good luck to Cade and all of his adventures. So I hope everybody subscribes below, likes this. This is a lot of fun to sit down with Cade. So hope everybody enjoyed this. Good luck with everything you got going on. Enjoy your time off, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Yes, sir.